Welcome everyone for today's study. All of us who are here, all of those who may join us later on. And to start this moment, we invite everyone for some moments of self-harmonization, focusing within, and perhaps those who may choose to close your eyes, please feel free to do that. And listening to ourselves, calming our minds, calming our hearts, as immortal beings as we all are, spirits, ourselves and all of those from the spiritual world who are with us, gathering together as learners of the universal laws which are presented to every and all of us, having the greatest master to teach humanity, Jesus. And with his blessings of peace, light, and love, we start today's study. So in order to carry on our theme, Spiritism Inspiring Lives, today we have our friend from the United States, Marcelo Netto. He is one of the leaders of the Spiritist movement in the United States, in particular in Florida, where he lives. Currently, he is the president of the Spiritist Federation of Florida, and he will be facilitating the theme today, Jesus, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So Marcelo, please feel welcome, and in that way, we pass it over to you.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank the Spiritist Psychological Society for the opportunity of being with you today and speaking about this incomparable man called Jesus. We have achieved great technological advancements, yet stagger behind on the aspect of the emotional being. People have a hard time dealing with their feelings and emotions, or better yet, deciphering what is what when it comes to their hearts and longings of the soul. Perhaps this is why the World Health Organization has released several reports and findings related to depression, as if there's like a contagious virus infecting people by the masses. Suicide numbers are growing by the second at an alarming rate, especially in thriving countries. And the World Health Organization reports that nearly 800,000 people die worldwide each year from suicide. Globally, it is the second leading cause of death for those between the ages of 15 and 25. It seems as if while we advance in one area, another one is not addressed, such as our connection with the Creator. I was thinking about this, and I had with me here this book, the Spirit's book. And when I open on question 780, I'm going to read something that actually strikes my mind. When Allan Kardec asks, does moral progress always follow intellectual progress? And the Spirits answered to Allan Kardec, it is its consequence, but it does not always follow it immediately. I am reading right over here straight from the book. And then Kardec asks, how can intellectual progress lead to moral progress? And the answer of the Spirits is, let me read it so I can not miss a word. By making good and evil understandable, for humans can choose between the two. The development of free will follows the development of intelligence and increases the responsibility of humans for their acts. Then, Kardec keeps asking, then how can one explain that the most civilized, enlightening cultures are often the most perverted? And the spirits answered to Allan Kardec, complete progress is the goal, but like individuals, cultures only reach it step by step. Until they have developed the moral sense, they may use their intelligence to do evil. Morality and intelligence are two forces that only achieve balance over time. And it explains exactly the discrepancies, the lack of morality, and the abundance of technological advancement that we are all experiencing in nowadays. It's really interesting and put us to think about. Often it seems as if we have lost contact even with ourselves, forgetting that the solution for finding the greatest treasure of all, peace, lies within. Many start to believe that happiness is just an utopia, giving up in a haste to try and find it. But Allan Kardec, the codifier of Spiritism, could foresee this as an issue that would assail humanity in the future, which is why he was led to ask the benefactors, the good spirits, the high order spirits, the following questions. I'm going to go back to the Spirit's book for question 942. Let's read it together. Once some people think that these counsels about happiness are a little banal, once they see them as being commonplace or as platitudes, and once they say that the secret to happiness is to know how to bear up under misfortune, and the spirits answered Allan Kardec, there are those who say that, and they are numerous. Many of them, however, are like ill persons for whom the doctor has prescribed a particular diet. They would like to be healed without any medications and continue to hand themselves over to indigestion. That's right. So there is a prescription that is effective and accurate for achieving true happiness. And the doctor par excellence who has prescribed was Christ. In his gospel, we are going to find a step by step how can we achieve true happiness. But the question is, in the search of happiness and joy throughout the centuries, how many of us have been willing to apply it to our lives, to our problems, and to the pain we feel? It is true that the message often touches our hearts and makes us very emotional. Sometimes we shed tears, we applaud the teachings, hope for better days, but yet we do not apply these teachings that have been made available for over 2,000 years. It seems as if we carry out just the following dialogue, constantly repeating, Master, I wish to be happy, but I am not willing to change anything in my life, anything within, and then adopt an immature attitude of continuing to carry on the very same approach the very same habits towards life, hoping for different results. It will not work. Definitely, it will not work. How can we accept that in the human heart, two opposite feelings could coexist? How come we can imagine, can we conceive the coexistence of rancor together with happiness inside a human heart? How come hurt and harmony could coexist? Hatred and peace? It will not work. And such antagonist feelings cannot be supported in the same space within our souls here. And this is why so many of us are unwilling to give up on their old ways. It takes work, of course, lots of work, self-improvement, self-analysis. Look at inside. It's because happiness based on egoism, in egoic actions, in immediacy, in hedonism, it's not a model that has been able to profoundly modify creatures. And it seems that the gospel of Jesus has not been profoundly understood by us. That's exactly what I think. Sometimes I think with myself because I keep repeating a certain passages of the gospel, but I think, am I putting into practice everything that I'm repeating from my lips? All those lessons I'm being here inside of my heart? When we read in the gospel, for example, of Matthew on chapter 7, verse 7, when Jesus mentioned, ask and it shall be given you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Many of us believed that divine providence would be a limitless fount of wishes for our immature, inferior desires. When Jesus states, ask and it shall be given to you, he's not saying ask what you hope for, but rather what we really need. And what we really need, we need courage to face the difficulties of life. We need strength to overcome ourselves, the old man, allowing for space for this new man to grow. And of course, this is a wise human being asking for a real courage, a real strength, because of course, we are going to face obstacles, we are going to face problems, but the destination of each and every one of us, it's beautiful. And it requires patience, it requires determination, it requires lots and lots of love and self-improvement. When Jesus says, like, seek and you shall find, seek the kingdom of heaven and all his justice and glory within, and everything else we receive will be added based on the ability to handle that which we ask for, the development of the kingdom of heaven inside our hearts, based on the understanding and development of the faculties of our hearts and our soul. For where our treasure is, we're also going to see this in Matthew on chapter 6 and 21. And he says, like Jesus says, for where our treasure is, there our hearts will be also. What and where is our treasure? This is a question that we all have to ask ourselves. It is not a physical location. This should not come as a surprise, for we already understand we are immortal beings, and this physical life is temporarily. And that we have reincarnated to develop those wholesome virtues. Let's go back again to the Spirit's book on question 132. When Allan Kardec asked, what is the purpose of the incarnation of spirits? And the answer is, God imposes incarnation for the purpose of leading spirits to perfection. See, knock, and it shall be open unto you. Once we have satisfied the first two phases of this passage, the doors towards the kingdom of peace will be opened. Peace as understood by Christ in this revolutionary teaching. Peace I live with you. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. We're going to find this in John 14:27, and we have to know how to interpret those passages. There's a huge difference between the peace of the world and the peace Christ offers all of us. There comes a moment in our lives where we question if everything we have sought in life externally offers us the peace we hope for within. If you have read, for example, the book Paul and Stephen, or have studied about Paul of Tarsus' trajectory, you will perhaps agree with me that just like Paul, we will all reach our road of Damascus. Perhaps we already have reached this road of Damascus. It is the road that offers us the secure way towards a change. The road proposed by Christ based on his gospel, this gospel of love. There are additional passages that talk about the kingdom of heaven that we can extract other profound teachings. I'm going to go back to the Gospel of Matthew on chapter 5, verse 4, 6, and 10, and I am going to read it because I don't know that passage by heart. And it says, like, blessed are they who weep, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are they who suffer persecution because of righteousness, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. This is a beautiful passage, and we're going to see in the Beatitudes. So let's stop for a second and reflect on these lessons. This is where Spiritism comes and offers us that gateway, a gateway towards the understanding of what he means, what Jesus means. Because without certainty about the future, of course, all these maxims would be nonsense. And even more, they would be a falsehood. But then we may ask, why do some suffer more than others? This is a frequent question in our study groups. Why are some born into poverty and others into opulence without having done anything to justify such a position? Why does nothing ever work out for some? Why everything seems to smile on others? But what is even harder to grasp is seeing benefits and misfortunes so unequally divided between vice and virtue. Seeing virtuous people suffering alongside the wicked ones who prosper. Faith in the future might offer consolation and lead to patience, of course, but it does not explain these anomalies. I'm sorry about some corrections that I'm doing here, which appear to belittle God's justice. So the vicissitudes of life are of two types, or if we prefer, they have two very different sources that are important for us to differentiate. Some have their causes in this present life. Others have their causes outside of this present life. So, on searching for the source of earthly misfortunes, it will be realized that many are the natural consequences of the character and behavior of those who bear them. How many fail? How many of us fail due to our own fault? How many are the victims of their own imprudence, their own pride and ambition? How many of us ruin for lack of discipline or perseverance for wrong conduct, or for not having limited our desires? How many unfortunate marriages there are because they result from calculated self-interest or sometimes vanity, and because the heart has played no part. How many disagreements and disastrous arguments could have been avoided with more moderation and less susceptibility? How many ills and infirmities are the consequence of intemperance and excesses of all kinds? We have to think. We have to ask these questions to ourselves, and not regret and cry because we are actually the cause of many sufferings in our own lives. However, if there are misfortunes in this life of which humans are the primary cause, there are others which, at least in appearance, are completely foreign to them and which seem to touch all of us fatalistically. What can be said of those children, for example, who die at a very young age and who knew of life only suffering? How can we tell a suffering mother, "Blessed are you for suffering," or weep? I know, with the words, "Blessed are the afflicted, for they shall be consoled," Jesus indicates simultaneously the compensation that awaits those who suffer and the resignation that leads one to bless suffering as a prelude to healing. On the Gospel according to Spiritism, we're going to find something really very interesting that I am going to read a portion here. It says, when these pains, if borne patiently while you are on earth, will save you from centuries of suffering in the future life. Upon re-entering the world of spirits, humans are like laborers who show up on payday. To some, the Lord will say, "Here is your pay for the days you worked." To others, the fortunate ones of earth, those who lived in idleness, who placed their happiness in the satisfaction of self-centeredness and in worldly pleasures, he will say, "Nothing is owed to you, since you received your pay while on earth. Go and begin your task again." For those who see only corporeal life, pain seems unending to them, and it presses on them with all its weight. It's interesting. It brings us such an explanation about the difference, about the discrepancies that we see. It is quite hard to bear witness to life with a completely materialistic point of view. And now we understand why there's so desperation, so many cases of suicide, because there are so many materialistic ideas spread all over the world. On chapter 9 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, when Allan Kardec brings blessed are the meek and peace-loving, because we are going to find something, a message really interesting when a spirit brings patience. And on this chapter, on the item 7, he says pain, mentioning about patience. Pain is a blessing that God sends upon the elect. Therefore, do not become troubled when you suffer. Instead, bless Almighty God, who through the pain of this world has marked us, you out for the glory in heaven. And the Spirit says, be patient. Patient too is a form of charity, and you and us, we must practice the law of charity taught by Christ, that envoy of God, the envoy of God. The Spirit friends who writes this message, who has walked our steps and know it's not easy, of course, offer us the following message. And it keeps saying, I have the Gospel according to Spiritism here, and I'm going to read it. And he keeps saying, the Spirit friends, this message, life is difficult, I know. It is composed of 1,000 nothings, which are pink pricks that end up hurting us. But we must consider the duties imposed on us, the consolations and compensations we receive in return, and then we will see that blessings are more numerous than sorrows. The burden seems less heavy when we look to heaven than when our brow is bent towards the ground. Courage, my friend. Christ is your model. The message was brought in the city of Havre in France by a spirit friend in 1862. Are we on our own road towards Damascus, or have we come about it and chosen another road? We have to ask this question. When Saul of Tarsus loses his eyesight, we learn about very deep message behind that. The vision was now inwards, no longer directed towards external aspects of life. We find that the peace of the world can often be compared to a stagnant body of water. It seems peaceful on the surface, but deep within it is murky and very deplorable. It is not one where we can dive deep and see, or better yet, engulf ourselves in. Not at all. The peace proposed by Christ, it's completely different. How much energy do we use trying to control everything and everyone, trying to play God, believing to be in control of everything, as if exterior factors held the happiness and joy we seek? The peace proposed by Christ is that of a serene conscience, of the certainty that everything is according to God's will and guided by divine laws. It is found in the faith in the future life, and in the faith of God's benevolence and infinite justice. It is no longer that deplorable stagnant water that we just mentioned, but a clear, luminous fount, always in motion, always alive, always in abundance, always streaming freely and connected to divine providence. The peace we find with Jesus, with Jesus' teachings and lessons, is aligned with our awareness of the need to change within, of finding oneself in the good fight. Paul of Tarsus once stated, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." We can look into the world outside and hear the commotions and loud noises of hatred, battles of egos. We always see this in the world that we are living in. But yet, inside, we hear, if we wish, if we work diligently, the calm waters of peace, reminding us that the battle, it's not out there, it's here, inside of a human heart. Leon Denis states that the secret of happiness is found in the construction of the better self. It is an investment made on our own behalf, where we are no longer enslaved by exterior motives, but rather free to develop and cultivate the virtues within. That's right. I was thinking about, because we just came from a pandemic, and during this pandemic time, we should took advantage of the situation, being isolated, of course, having the chance to work with our family members, trying to be a better person, a better father, a better mother, a better son, a better daughter, a better friend. But what we did, this is also a question that we should make to ourselves. There's another great lesson that I love it very much. It's on the Gospel of Matthew, on the chapter 13, on the verse 47 and 52. It's the parable of the net. And I think many of you already know this parable. When Jesus makes this comparison, it says, like, once again, the kingdom of heaven, it's like a net that was cast into the sea and caught all kinds of fish. And when it was full, the fisherman, pull it ashore, but full of fish. Then they sat down and sorted the good fish into containers, but they threw the bad fish away. Every single day, we find ourselves on our own boat. We fish daily. We fish emotions. We fish challenges, ideals, thoughts. But at the end of the day, how many of us reserve some time to sort the good fish from the spoiled ones? Do we conduct, at the end of the day, mental hygiene as much as we are aware of the needs to conduct the normal body hygiene? That's the question. Because we cannot fight the good battle when we keep the symbolic catch of the day hatred, resentment, hurt, egoism, and all these kinds of vices. This is why St. Augustine brought us the recipe for joy found in his answer to question 919a of the Spirit's book. And he says something like that. I'm also going to read question 900 and oops. Bear with me. Here is the question. It's on the characteristic of a moral person. And it brings self-knowledge. First, Allan Kardec asks on question 919, what is the most effective means for improving ourselves in this life and for resisting the draw of evil? And the Spirit's answer, a sage of antiquity has told you, know thyself. But Kardec keeps asking, we comprehend all the wisdom of that maxim, but the difficulty is precisely in knowing ourselves. But by what means can we do so? And St. Augustine answered, do what I used to do when I was living on the earth. At the end of each day, I examined my conscience, reviewed what I had done, and asked myself whether or not I had failed to fulfill some duty, and whether or not anyone might have had reason to complain about me. It was thus that I arrived at knowing myself and at seeing what there was in me that needed to be reformed. Those who every night would recall all their actions during the day and would ask themselves what good or wrong they have done, praying to God and their guardian angel to enlighten them, would acquire great strength for self-improvement, because, believe me, God will assist them. Therefore, ask yourselves about what you have done and towards what aim you act in a particular circumstance. Whether you have done anything that you would blame in others, and whether you have done anything that you would not dare profess. Also ask if it pleased God to call me at this moment to enter the world of spirits, where nothing is hidden. Would I cower before anyone's gaze? Examine what you may have done against God, then against your neighbor, and lastly against yourself. The answers will be either repose for your conscience or an indication of a wrong, and that you must amend. Self-knowledge is therefore the key to individual improvement. But you will ask, how do we judge ourselves? Won't we be under the illusion of vanity, which exalts our wrongs and makes them excusable? Misers think they are simply being thrifty and foresightful, while proud individuals think they are only full of dignity. All of this is quite true. But you have a means of control that cannot deceive you. When you are indecisive as to the quality of any one of your actions, ask how you would judge it if it had been done by someone else. If you would blame it in another, it cannot be any more legitimate for you, for God does not use two measures for justice. Also, seek to know what others think about you, and do not neglect the opinion of your enemies, because they have no interest in disguising the truth. Frequently, God places them beside you as a mirror in order to warn you more frankly than a friendly would. Therefore, let those who are truly willingly to improve themselves examine their own conscience in order to uproot from it their bad tendencies as they uproot weeds from their garden. Let them balance out their moral workday like business persons do with their profits and losses. And I can assure you that these will be more profits than losses. If you can say that your workday has been good, you can sleep in peace and fearlessly wait for awakening in the other life. The message is beautiful, and it keeps going on, and it's signed by St. Augustine, and brings us precisely, it's more like a recipe. How should I, at the end of the day, make this examination, putting to test my personality, my character, being sincere, asking questions sincerely to yourself, as if you have like someone, a very dear friend, a their dear brother, making this conversation, and be honest. On the Gospel of John, on chapter 16, verse 33, Jesus brings us something about the peace. It's a different peace. And he mentioned that I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. What kind of world Jesus has overcome? This is the world outside, the corporations, the ego world, or this world within. This constantly constructions and process of building a better man, a better human being, so we can one day be this image of the Creator. Not in the shape, not in the form, but the essence. Be an instrument of peace, as the Saint Francis of Assisi, dear the Poverello, once said in Assisi in Italy, Father, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Many of us would say, how could Jesus have stated this if he was crucified? This is another question that many people, because they're form of making this analysis, so this man ends up being crucified, so he's a loser. Based on the mortal aspect, based on the materialistic aspect, of course, he's a loser. But his world, his plan was way beyond our capacity to understand. The question truly is, how am I analyzing this lesson from Christ? And what happened with the immortal eyesight, that of the Spirit? Where did Christ go after his crucifixion? And where the Pilates and Caesar, supposed victors of the world, go? Where? How many people discarnate and leave the physical world in the condition of barren conquerors and arrived in the spirit world as failed spirits, How many others leave this world in the apparent condition of losers and enter the spirit world in the conditions, in the condition of illuminated beings. On the Gospel according to Spiritism, when on chapter 2, Allan Kardec brings message, just the title, My Kingdom, It's Not of This World. The last message, the Spiritist Teachings, we're going to see a spirit that signs a Queen of France, and the title is Unearthly Kingship. And she said something like that. Let me read it, because I don't want to miss a word by this spirit, this specific spirit that signed a Queen of France. Look at what she wrote to us. Who better than I can understand the truth of these words of our Lord? My kingdom, it's not of this world. I lost myself in pride while on the earth. Who then could understand the insignificance of earth's kingdom, if not I? What of my earthly kingdom did I bring back here with me? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And as if to make my lesson more terrible, it did not even accompany me to the tomb. I was a queen amongst men. As a queen, I thought I would enter the kingdom of heaven. Such delusion, such humiliation, when instead of being received as a sovereign, I saw above me, far above me, beings whom I had deemed quite small, and whom I had despised because they were not of noble blood. Oh, how I then understood the bareness of the honors and grandeurs that I so eagerly sought on earth, in order to prepare oneself for a place in this kingdom. Self-denial, humility, charity in all its heavenly forms, and benevolence toward all are required. You're not asked who you were or what position you occupied, but what good you did, the tears you wept away. Oh, Jesus, you said that your kingdom is not of this world, because one must suffer in order to reach heaven, and the steps of a throne cannot lead us to it. Only the most trying path of life do. Therefore, seek your path through the briars and thorns, and not amongst the flowers. People run after earthly things as if they were able to keep them forever. But here there are no more illusions. They soon perceive that they had only been chasing a shadow, and that they had neglected the only possessions that were solid and durable, the only ones they could use in the heavenly home, the only ones that give them access to it. Have pity on those who have not gained the kingdom of heaven. Help them with your prayers, for prayer brings people close to the Most High. It is the link of union between heaven and earth. And then she finished, do not forget that, and sign a Queen of France. The message was received in Havre, 1863. True virtues are often established based on how we interrelate with others, being patient, being tolerant, and forgiving the offenses. This is why pain and tribulations are blessings if we know how to take advantage of them. There is no doubt that Christ is with us. The question that I keep asking myself And I think you should ask yourself are we with him? Because since yesterday, he keeps talking our ears. Yesterday, today, and always. Jesus will be, would be, was the message of true happiness, meaning in harmony with the divine laws. Because according to the benevolent spirits, we are only unhappy when we distance ourselves from these laws, the divine laws, loving one another. Genuine peace resides in understanding that this is fruit of the heart, a heart completely aligned with this greater love. Let's never forget that love is patient, love is kind, love is tolerant, and charity, the true definition for charity, it's way beyond simply giving money. It's being benevolent towards everyone, indulgence towards the imperfections of others, because we also have many imperfections, and be a forgiving person, forgiveness of the offenses. That's always the lesson. So one day we can be a truly examples of Christ, being an example and repeating the word that St. Francis of Assisi once said, and asking from the depth of his heart, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I really enjoy being here with you, and may God bless you all, always and always. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marcelo. It has been a great pleasure having you here with us for these unique and special moments of enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment. We are very grateful for your time and your presence. And in that way, we are coming to the end of this moment, as I mentioned, moment of self-enlightenment, giving thanks for everything that we received in terms of directions, orientations, methods that can help us to move forward with the greatest teacher of all, Jesus. As we close this meeting with gratitude in our hearts, giving thanks for the Lord our Father, for his loving love and mercy towards every and each one of us, for Jesus, the guide of humanity, who is blessing every and each one of us on earth, constantly, despite of us ignoring him. Even so, his unconditional love carries on flowing up in humanity. Dear brother and sister, or friends in humanity, let's all of us choose the pathway of light, choose the pathway of goodness, choose the pathway of love, so that we learn to harmonize ourselves within ourselves and within the natural laws in the universe, as immortal beings as we are. Thank you for the message of goodness, of brotherhood. Thank you also for all the good assistance which is constantly giving to every and each one of us, and with all hearts full of gratitude and thanksgiving, we close this meeting today. So be it. Giving thanks to everyone, and also wishing peace to everyone who have been with us, and all of those who later on may be in contact with this talk of today. And once more, our thank you and gratitude for Marcelo. Hope to see you in other opportunities too. Much peace to all. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.